Now, this first word is the hardest at the door, and I would prefer to slip past it myself if I could, but there is no slipping past. Disease has no cause. Not a hidden cause, not a forgotten cause, not an ancestral cause, no cause. If it had a cause, we would be compelled to fight it as a power, repair it as a reality, resist it as a something with a root. If it had a cause, then two powers would be in the field, the cause of God and the cause of disease, and at once we would be conscripted into combat. But the carnal mind is enmity against God, not because it is an opposite power, but because it is not subject to God, and so is no mind at all. Paul was naming a wind that blows nowhere. That is the arm of flesh nothingness. Now, I know what you will think of me, yes. I can already hear you say it when you take this home and try to practice it on your loved ones and on your own heart. You will say, this is the most difficult teaching I have ever tried to swallow, and you would be right. This is the most difficult lesson there is. Not to admire, not to nod at, but to live. So we will go slowly, rigorously. We will not run ahead into sentiment or into denial. We will not use brave, bright words to plaster over fear. We will go to the root and lay the axe there, and we will not lift it for anything less than the root. If discord has no true cause, then our work is not with effects, not with rashes or finances or politics or bones, not with bodies. If there is no cause, then effects are non-events dressed as events, and the only work is to refuse to be drafted into a pageant. That refusal is not coldness. It is compassion of a higher order, the compassion that refuses to confirm a lie by sympathizing with it. Neither do I condemn thee, said the Master to the woman, and then go and sin no more. He did not condemn the person, but he did withdraw his consent from the picture. I am not judging your symptoms, your fear, your history. I am also not interested in arguing with shadows. Our stance is unsentimental not because we are hard, but because sentimentalism feeds the dream and leaves you asleep. So the frame of our work is this. We are not treating bodies, we are ending mesmerism. Don't let that word frighten you. It is just my way of saying universal hypnosis, the suggestion of a second creation and a second law. If you start with a body, you will end with a body, for you have already agreed to the scene of the dream. If you start with spirit presence realized, you will end with a cessation of the picture, not by repair, but by awakening. Be still and know that I am God. The instruction is not be loud and fix it. The instruction is be still and know. And to be still is to stand porter at the door of thought and let nothing of two-power thinking pass. Every tree which bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. That is our axe at the root. No hacking at branches, no clipping of leaves. I must be frank. To practice this, you will have to abandon the habit of rehearsing appearances. Many of you like to tell long stories. I know, so did I. You know the dates, the specialists, the cousins, the charts. I am not impressed. Not because I am indifferent to your pain, but because I cannot be faithful to you and faithful to those charts at the same time. If you come to me, I have no interest whatsoever in what you are coming to me for. I am not the doctor of the dream. I will listen long enough to know the claim that is tempting us to accept the cause, and then I will withdraw into silence and meet nothingness as nothing. Nobody can be on my telephone over 3 minutes. I am eager to get back to the altar, quiet, wordless, thoughtless, because spiritual healing is done without words and without thought. If you think I am going to outthink your problem, I have bad news for you and good news for you. I have retired from thinking as a cure. I will sit and wait and consent to presence. And if I be lifted up in that awareness, I will draw all appearances into that altitude without a speech. I, if I be lifted up, will draw all men unto me. But this is not passivity. Do not mistake stillness for vacancy. The stillness I speak of is a sword that refuses imaginary war. It is a vigilance that denies the ambition of effects to become causes. It is the axe laid to the root of the belief in a second power. Call it nothing, for it is nothing. But do not flirt with it. Do not play with it. Meet it as nothing. You do not scold it. You do not flatter it. You do not plead with it. You expose it to the light of realized presence, and it dissolves not because you have shouted louder, but because a shadow has no argument with the sun. And here some of you will ask, but what of pain? What of fever? What of the sight before me? I will tell you this much tonight. Tenderness is permitted, drama is not. You may hold a hand, you may weep if you must, but do not agree. Do not agree that an effect has authored itself. Do not agree that a clock can make time, or that a mirror can make faces. The face existed before the mirror. The eye existed before heartbeat, before diagnosis, before the proud parade of humanhood. We will take that up further. But for now, hear this. You are not well because the body is well. The body is well because you exist. If you stand there quietly, faithfully, even your humor will become holy. You will find yourself saying in the middle of a storm, well now, there is a lot of wind where no weather is. And you will smile, not because you despise the people in the rain, but because you have seen the sky. So, at the door of this work, let us agree to one uncompromising premise. Disease has no cause. All discord stands only as a persuasion that would recruit you into a fight with nothing. Refuse enlistment. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. We will prove these words not with chatter, but with practice. We will sit, we will be still, and we will know. Until then, keep your hand on the axe and your gaze upon one power. And if a whisper insists upon two, stand porter, let it pass, and rest where God is and where nothing else ever was. Now then, if you have stayed with me to this point, you will feel the next turn as both scandal and relief. Stop treating bodies. Do not start there. Do not end there. Bodies are effects. Effects are pictures. Pictures of the arm of flesh, nothingness. To an effect you can administer endless kindnesses, and I am not against kindness, but do not mistake compassion for consent. To treat an effect as cause is to hire the dream as your physician, for the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal. There is your diagnosis. The seen is the echo, the unseen is the voice. If you polish the echo, do not be shocked when it remains an echo. Who, then, is the patient? Not the woman on the chair, not the man with the x-ray, not the child with a flush on the cheek. The only patient is the suggestion, impersonal, insistent, that parades as person and pleads for recognition. That is universal hypnotism. The one error, the second creation, whispering, I am here, attend to me. And the moment you agree to its stage and its spotlight, you have hired yourself as stage hand. Ah, but we are not stage hands. We are witnesses. We are priests of a presence that needs no prop and no scene. Every plant which my heavenly Father hath not planted shall be rooted up. Our work is to lay the axe to that root, not to prune the branches of a story about Aunt Mary and the winters of '84. Now I know your kindness. You want to understand the person. You want to relieve their shame. You want to discover the childhood moment that started the pain. Don't. Do not condemn and do not analyze. Non-judgment is not courtesy, it is hygiene. Judge not that ye be not judged. The moment you blame, you personalize the impersonal. You grant citizenship to a vagabond. The moment you psychoanalyze, you tell the dream it has a genealogy. Neither is true. Neither do I condemn thee, said the Master, and with that the picture lost its center. We do not blame sinners, we do not blame saints, we do not blame vitamins or viruses or vacuums of love. Blame is consent in costume. Withdraw consent. Keep your hands clean of personal causality. Stand porter at the door of thought, and let no tale of private guilt or private virtue seduce you into two powers. Because this is so, our protocols must be plain. When you call me, a brief statement of need is sufficient. Not because I am brusque, but because I am guarding both of us from rehearsal. Rehearsal feeds hypnosis. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, not the syllables and sentiments of the case, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. A line will do: child fever, fear cord, pain left side. Beyond that, you are merely varnishing a phantom. Nobody can be on my telephone over 3 minutes. I like to get back into meditation right away, not to think a better thought, but to be still until the presence is presence to itself. Spiritual healing is done without words and without thoughts. The less I know about the story, the easier it is to refrain from treating a body and to meet the nothingness at its own pretension, namely, at nothing. I can hear you sigh. This feels heartless, or at least radical. It is neither, it is obedience. The senses clamor. They want to show. They want me to be Thomas and to put my finger in the print of the nails. But the Master said, blessed are they that have not seen and yet have believed. Not believed in a far-off deity, but rested in realized presence before a single fiber twitched. We walk by that inner light, not by sight. We are not ignoring the body. We are refusing to crown it. If you bring me your films, I will not hang them on my wall to admire the darkness. I will quietly reach for the switch and let light be light. You do not argue with a shadow. You do not coax it into a sunnier disposition. You let the sun enter, and the shadow remembers what it always was. Let me tell you, just to steady your feet, how this looks on a Tuesday. A man rang from 1,000 miles away. Backlocked, cannot stand. 3 words. That is all I permit, because after 4 I start to see a back instead of God, and then we are both in trouble. I said, all right, and I hung up. I turned within, no words, no thoughts, and waited. 10 minutes later there was that inner loosening, that sigh that isn't breath, and I knew the suggestion had been met as nothing. That evening his wife wrote 1 line, he is splitting kindling. Now, I have had as many failures as any of you in trying to fix a body, but when I refuse the bait and meet mesmerism as mesmerism, something happens that I cannot claim as my act. He sent his word and healed them. Yes, the word, not my word. So take this home as a simple, severe kindness to yourself and to those who seek you. The only patient is the hypnotic suggestion of a second power. When you stop treating bodies, you free yourself to meet the root. Keep the statements brief. Refuse to psychologize. Stand still. Let presence be presence. And if the eyes argue, let them argue into your silence. Lay the axe unto the root of the trees, not to the twigs of sensation. Look not at the things which are seen, but at the unseen that is forever seeing itself. Then you will find there is only one power here, and what has no power has no voice, no cause, no continuance. And you will smile softly, because the patient you were so worried about has vanished, and only God remains, and he was never sick. Now then, because we will not treat bodies, some of you will rush to rescue with 2 well-worn ropes, faith and mental treatment. You mean well. I have tugged both ropes in my time. They make a noise, they give the hands something to do, and for a little while it seems as if the cart moves. Yes, seems. Let us look at them plainly. for they are cousins to the same error, and they keep you employed where there is no work to be done. Faith healing first. By faith healing, I do not mean the living awareness that God is here. I mean belief about a God somewhere, a concept, a deity, maintained by volume or by collective emotion. It works a little, not because spirit has been realized, but because the human mind can be rallied. Morale can rise. The body responds to hope as it responds to fear. You can shout a storm into a mood. You have done it with your children and with your own heart at 2 a.m. And so a meeting fills. Songs ascend. The voice quivers. Hands are laid. And for 5%, give or take, there is an uplift. But where is the root? Is there an axe at it? Or have we painted a withered branch green? Not every one that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven. Words about God are not God. This people draweth nigh unto me with their mouth, and honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. If emotion could heal, the stadium would be the holiest place in town, and the ushers would be our new high priests. Do not despise sincere people in their joy. Do not mock their tears. Neither do I condemn thee. But be honest. Faith, that is belief in a concept of God, still requires an opponent. It says there is a bad force here, and I will call in a good force there to push it back. 2 forces, 2 powers. One of them stronger, we hope, than the other. But the very hope keeps you in the fight, and the fight is the dream. Not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Spirit does not wrestle. Spirit reveals. When the sun rises, it does not push the night off the porch. It is the nature of light to be what it is, and in that is the end of the argument. Now, the next rope, mental treatment. Here the mind is the engineer, and you are the engine. You are spiritual, you are perfect, your pancreas is humming, your bones are aligned, your thoughts are elevated, bang, bang, bang upon the door of a patient's mind until either the door opens from weariness or you break your hand. It is mind over body, a clever manipulation of pictures inside the same picture. At its best, it is a bandage with a hymn on it. At its worst, it is scolding the frightened with superior syllables. Do not take offense. I have done it. I have written elegant letters that said nothing to the hypnotism at all and everything to the person's pride. It sometimes produced a change, yes. The dream coughed and rolled to the other side. But the dreamer slept on. The reason it stalls is the same. There is still a trouble, and now I, with my metaphysical muscles, will correct it. 2 powers, and the practitioner is the referee. This is the hidden ego, my statement, my technique, my demonstration. Listen to the pronoun. It will betray the thief. As long as I am trying to make something happen, I am filling the room with my words and my thoughts, and the only agency that heals the descent of spirit is asked to wait in the hall until I am through performing. He must increase, but I must decrease. Not I must rewire the patient's thinking until the picture blushes and goes home. That is still the arm of flesh. That is still nothingness, presented as something to be bullied by superior nothingness. A woman once came with a face like winter. She had been to meetings where faith was promised if she would leap. She had been to practitioners who told her she was not sick because, in theory, she was divine. She left each place with a new layer of duty and a fresh shiver. She said to me, I have tried to believe hard enough. I have tried to think right enough. I told her gently, stop trying. We sat in silence. No words, no thoughts. I did not outline God to her. I did not outline her to God. We waited. And in that waiting there was that inner ease that cannot be manufactured. And when she rose, there was no winter in her eyes. I do not know what was healed because I never met the disease. The picture lost its sponsor. He sent his word and healed them. Not my words, not your words, the word, which is presence aware of itself. You see the difference? Faith, healing, and mental treatment are still commerce. They trade force for force, thought for thought. Realization is Sabbath. It is rest, not indifference. Rest, not lethargy. Rest because there is one power and it is present, and all else has no cause. When you realize one power, you do not need to rebut the other. There is no other. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal. The carnal weapon is not only a fist, it is also a bright idea wielded like a club. Lay it down. Be still and know that I am God. Not be busy and convinced. Be still and know. You will find, if you are honest, that the itch to fix is an old religion you have worn like a beloved coat. It has kept you warm in the winters of fear. Take it off. The air will be bracing at first. Your hands will feel useless. Good. That is the best sign you have had in years. For when the hands are empty, the heart can receive. I, if I be lifted up, will draw all men unto me. Lifted up where? Not on a ladder of affirmations, not on a platform of borrowed fervor, but in the secret place where words fail and God answers himself. So I say to you, with the tenderness of one who has skinned his own knees on both roads, do not pit a light bulb against the night switch on the current. Do not hire your mind to scold a cloud. Let the wind that blows where it listeth be what it already is. Anything that sets one power against another keeps you asleep. Realization ends the need for combat because there is nothing to combat. In a moment we will name the root and meet it impersonally. For now, be content to abandon your outlines. Let there be no pressure in you to perform, no argument to win, no timeline to meet. Sit down, stand porter at the door of thought, and in the hush where no syllable is negotiating with shadows, presence will be presence, and that will be the end of the discussion. Now we must do what is both simplest and most offensive to the mind. We must name the root. All discord is the one error, and it is not yours, it is not mine. It is universal hypnotism, race belief, mesmerism, the suggestion that there exists a second creation alongside the first, a counterfeit law where lack, labor, decay, and fear are natives, and we are their tenants. Do not let the word hypnotism send you to the carnival. I am not speaking of a pocket watch and a stage act. I am speaking of the subtle, impersonal suggestion that comes with the morning headlines and with grandmother's warnings, with the doctor's scan and with the preacher's scowl, with your own mirror and with your neighbor's tale, a steady hum that says, this is the way of the world. Yes, of the world, not of God. Scripture has never been shy about drawing this line. In the first chapter of Genesis, you will recall, God speaks, God beholds, and God rests. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. That is the creation of God, finished, whole, and never amended. Then comes the afterward, the dream of an Adam fashioned out of dust, a deep sleep falling upon him. Have you noticed no verse ever records that he awoke? And out of that sleep a narrative of sweat and thorns, of a serpent's counsel and a blame that circulates like bad currency. That second account is the second creation, the false history of lack and labor and death. If you begin healing inside that dream, you have granted cause to the sleep and then asked the sleeper to reason his way awake. He will dream of wakefulness, perhaps, but the pillow remains under his head. Paul names this same unreality with the bluntness of a man who has been thrown from his horse. The carnal mind is enmity against God, for it is not subject to the law of God, neither indeed can be. Now, what is a mind that cannot be subject to the law of God? Not a mind at all, but the suggestion of mind, a term denoting nothingness, a wind that blows nowhere and insists it has uprooted a cedar. To treat the carnal mind as a something, to reason with it, to rebuke it, to fear it, is to become its press agent. We will not do that. We will lay the axe at the root by recognizing it as the arm of flesh, nothingness. Impersonality is the mercy in this. Because the cause is not yours or mine, there is no sinner to fix, no guilty one to defend, no private history to exhume. Master, who did sin, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Do you hear the old hunger for a local cause, a person to blame? The answer is the same today as then. Neither hath this man sinned nor his parents, but that the works of God should be made manifest in him. The minute you personalize the claim, shame enters to take up residence, pride comes in behind it with a broom, and now you are dusting furniture in a house that never stood. Let it go. Neither do I condemn thee, neither do I crown thee a patient. I will not add my consent to a dream by finding culprits in it. Someone will say, but surely heredity is personal. Surely trauma is personal. Surely injustice is personal. That is how the dream speaks. That is how mesmerism solicits your tears and your arguments. I am not asking you to harden your heart. I am asking you to purify your sight. Compassion does not require gullibility. When appearances present themselves with affidavits and family trees, grandfather had this, mother had that, I am fated, take a breath and stand porter at the door of thought. Every plant which my heavenly Father hath not planted shall be rooted up. Heredity may be a plant, but who planted it? Not God. Therefore it has no root. Therefore it can be met as rootless. Do not hate it. Do not fear it. Do not wrestle it. Deny it causality by dwelling silently where cause is one. Universal hypnotism paints the world with a single palette. Good days, bad days, up markets, down markets, wars and truces, epidemics and cures, youth and age, a rotation of opposites that looks like law but is only rhythm. I know the rhythm can feel like law when pain is the drum, but remember the Sabbath of the first creation where God rests because it is very good. In that rest there is no pendulum, no recoil, no equal and opposite. There is one. To heal is to wake just enough to feel that one, and in that feeling the pendulum forgets to swing. You do not push, you do not catch it on the forward arc, you do not engineer a counterweight. You sit very still until the only motion left is spirit resting in itself. Let me be personal only about this. When I first began to see hypnotism as the one error, I thought I had acquired a weapon. I was wrong. I had been given sight. The work is not to take up mesmerism and hit it on the head that only invites you into a brawl with a shadow. The work is to let the light on over and over with such quiet certainty that the room becomes embarrassed to be dark. Sometimes the picture drops at once. Sometimes the claim thrashes and calls for your attention like a clever child who has learned how to perform. Do not clap, do not scold, do not explain. Turn again to presence and let presence be present. The axe is laid unto the root of the trees. Lay it there and leave it there. No hacking at branches, no polishing of bark, because this is universal. You are not fighting the town's gossip. You are not correcting a relative. You are not avenging your childhood. You are withdrawing belief from a world system that never received its charter from God. That withdrawal is not soaking. It is worship. Set your affection on things above, not on things on the earth. When affection rises to its own level, the picture loses its audience, and without an audience, the actor goes home. The fever goes home. The fear goes home. The lack goes home. Where is home for a picture? Nowhere. It was never housed in God, so it has no place to return to except the nothingness from which it boasted. So then, the root has a name. Universal hypnotism, the Adam dream, the carnal mind terms for a non-thing pretending to be a thing. Name it only to refuse it audience. And how do we refuse? Not by argument, not by denunciation, but by the simplest fidelity. Be still until cause is felt as one. Stand porter at the door of thought, and let no tale of two powers pass. Refuse to blame, refuse to fear, refuse to fix. Consent to presence. Then, when the whisper comes, and it will, showing you a second creation with glossy proofs, you will discover a small, sure laughter arising, not unkind, not superior, but clear, as if to say, oh yes, the serpent still has his stories, and you will not lean down to hear them. You will rest where God is, and in that rest the hypnotism finds no listener, no sponsor, no cause. And that, beloved, is healing at the root. Now then, having named the root, we must refuse it an opponent. This is where the barrier always stands. Not in your lack of sincerity, not in your shortage of quotations, but in your private shrine to two powers. A little shrine will do, a very little one, a tucked-away belief that perhaps on rainy Thursdays there is another force out there that requires you to brace, to rebuke, to bargain. That small belief splits your prayer into two voices, and a kingdom divided against itself cannot stand. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, one Lord, one law, one life. That is not poetry. That is the end of the argument, if you will let it be. Do not make the carnal mind the opposite of divine mind. An opposite is still a power. It would require recognition, strategy, and time. I have none of those to waste. I have present, the arm of flesh nothingness, mortal mind nothingness, hypnotism nothingness. These are not insults. They are hygiene of speech, so your heart does not hire a second cause under a polite title. Keep your language clean and your meditation cleaner. If you offer the dream a real name, it will shake your hand and sit down to lunch. Remove the place setting. Remove the chair. Remove the guest list. There is no opponent in the room where God is the only host. Purification before prayer is not a ritual. It is non-duality made practical. If thou bring thy gift to the altar, and there rememberest that thy brother hath aught against thee, first be reconciled to thy brother, and then come and offer thy gift. What is that but the refusal to carry a second power into the sanctuary? Fear is a second power. Blame is a second power. The itch to fix is a second power. Make peace quietly, inwardly, truly. Release the argument you have been winning in your head for 3 years. Let it go as if it never had a claimant, because in spirit it never did. Agree with thine adversary quickly. How? By depriving the adversary of existence as adversary. Resist not evil. Do not arm wrestle a ghost. Smile and walk through it. The ghost is the arm of flesh, nothingness. Now you will say, but isn't there danger in not opposing? There is danger only in believing in two. When there is one power, what would you oppose? The shadow on the floor when the lamp is lit? It feels strange at first because the human habit is battle. It wants an enemy to prove its virtue. That is why the Master's way scandalizes the zealot. He healed by refusing opponents. Thou couldst have no power at all against me except it were given thee from above. Do you hear the non-duality? He did not boast to himself with courage against a dangerous Rome. He saw only the absence of any second will. And so there was no contest, only authority without noise. This is why we die daily, not dramatically, not with trumpets, but with the steady surrender of both good humanhood and bad. You must let the metals go along with the sores, the sweet habits along with the sour. Why? Because as long as you insist upon being a very good human, protecting yourself against a very bad universe, you have signed a two-power contract with fine print that will exhaust you. I die daily, said Paul, and in that death the I am stands up. You are not well because your heart is well. Your heart is well because you exist, because I am precedes organ and outlives heartbeat. When identity reverses, causality reverses, and the room empties of opponents as a theater empties when the lights come on and the stage crew stops pretending. Now take this into your small daily moments where holiness hides in plain view. Stand porter at the door of thought. When a report knocks pain, lack, resentment, a headline asking for your pulse before you admit it, ask, is this a power? If it requires a second power to fix it, close the door. If it has no law in God, it has no passport here. Then be still, not word still only, but desire still. Do not desire its removal, that is, to grant it occupancy and then request eviction. Desire nothing. Let the altar be empty of bargaining chips. Be still and know that I am God. Know it until the knowing knows itself and you are no longer a knower but a witness to the only. Discipline your speech the way you discipline your door. I do not permit the tongue to say my cancer, my attack, my trauma. Neither do I say my recovery, my demonstration, my triumph. The pronoun inflates the dreamer. Keep it impersonal. The suggestion called is presenting. In God it has no law. Then silence. The Spirit of the Lord God does not require your adjectives. Perfect love casteth out fear, not perfect phrasing. And when fear is out, there is no second power left in the room to speak, to cry, to plead. What has no power has no voice. You will discover, if you try this for one honest hour, that a great quiet begins to do the heavy lifting you could not. The itch to argue subsides. The breeze of presence finds an open window. Sometimes there is a small laugh. Oh, yes, there I was, auditioning opponents again, and with it a tenderness that does not condemn the habit but will not fund it either. Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. Do not miss the mark again by aiming at shadows. One power alone. When opposition ends, healing begins, not as a victory song after combat, but as the hush of a room that has remembered the light switch. And in that light, beloved, what seemed to be there cannot speak because it never had a tongue. Now then, let us not leave these words up in the rafters. Let us see them with our own eyes shut. Close your eyes. Be where you are. Don't hunt for a holy posture. Just sit. Now allow a street to come into view. Any street. A row of shop fronts. A tree that has learned to grow out of a square of iron grate. A bus sighing at the curb. Hear a siren far off, thin at first, then weaving closer, louder, insistent. A cyclist flashes by. A child lets go of a string and a red balloon climbs like a thought you cannot catch. The siren widens. A delivery truck noses through the intersection. A woman steps off the curb with a stroller that wobbles. There is a squeal. The bicycle lists. A horn punches the air. Feel what happens. The stomach tightens. The hands go to fists. The breath holds a board across the chest. You want to jump into the picture, to stop a wheel, to hold up the sky with your shoulders. Good. Notice the old religion at work. An emergency has created a second power, and you have been hired as assistant God for the afternoon. Keep your eyes closed. Do not fix the scene. Do not bless it. Do not curse it. Do not make declarations over it. Let it be what it claims to be right there in your imagination, and now open your eyes. Where did the street go? Where is the siren? Where is the bicycle skid? Did you heal the accident? Did you counsel the driver? Did you run, brave soul, and lift the child from the lug nuts of fate? Nothing of the kind. The room you are in is innocent of the drama. You did not repair a dream. You awakened. And the picture, having no cause in this light, has no authority to continue. Awake thou that sleepest, and arise from the dead, and Christ shall give thee light. That is not poetry for funerals. It is instruction for this moment. The picture was never cause, your agreement was. And when agreement is withdrawn without argument, without heroics, the thing collapses into what it is, arm of flesh, nothingness. When thine eye is single, thy whole body shall be full of light. Single, not divided between the siren and God, between the wobble and God, between the horn and God. One eye, one power, one presence. The scene yields the way a shadow yields to a lamp that has simply remembered to be on. Now bring this home to the place where you ache. A report knocks, text message, headline, diagnosis, a twinge that sends your memory to a long hallway with bad art and a waiting room. The mind runs to the curb. Oh, yes, an accident, and the siren starts up again inside the ribs. Here is the practice. Stop at the door. Stand porter at the door of thought. Ask, is this a power? If it requires a second power to fix it, close the door. If it claims a law that God did not author, refuse it a passport. Do not hate it. Hate is still a second power. Do not love it. Sentiment is still a sponsor. Simply deny it causality by abiding in cause. Peace, be still. The Master did not shout down the wind. He spoke from the fact of one. You will notice the itch to do something theatrical, to paint the picture with white light, to chant a better soundtrack, to push a prayer like a broom. Let the itch rise and fall with no hand to scratch it. Your work is not performance. Your work is presence. Sit quietly, wordlessly. The Spirit of the Lord God does not wait for eloquence. It requires room. Give it room. Give it the whole room. Perhaps there will be a soft drop of the shoulders. Perhaps a breath you did not order arrives and leaves like a tide that knows its own move. Perhaps a small, almost amused recognition. Ah, there I go again, auditioning opponents, and then a quiet that has weight without pressure. That is the sign, not fireworks, not triumph. Just the sense that what was asking for your fear has lost your address. If the picture returns and the carnival will send the calliope around again, do not be annoyed. Do not congratulate it for persistence. Do not apologize for being human, neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. Do not miss the mark again by taking the bait. Repeat the simplicity. This is a picture in universal hypnotism. It has no cause in God. Therefore, it has no law, no continuity, no mandate. Back to stillness, back to the one, back to the single eye. How long? Until the sense shifts, not until the pain clocks out, until you are untroubled as to whether there was ever an employee at that desk. There is a seriousness here, but there is no strain. I am not asking you to lift the bus. I am asking you to refrain from lifting an illusion onto the altar. Lay the axe at the root, not the horn, not the wheel, not the mother's cry at the root, which is the assumption that there is a second creation running on its own causes and demanding your fear tithe. In the silence where you make no offerings to that temple, the edifice discovers that rent is due and no landlord exists. It folds, sometimes quickly, sometimes with a few noisy collapses, but it folds because it never stood in God. Arise, shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon thee. Rise where? Into what? Not up from a mattress of problems to a balcony of solutions, but out of the sleep where pictures rule into the awareness where presence is presence. Remember your little street. Remember the siren that could not get past your eyelids when light returned. This is not childish. This is the very thing you are practicing how reality operates. The same light that dissolved the imagined impact is the light by which the body's report loses jurisdiction. You are not well because the scene is fixed. The scene prints well because you are awake. So then, the next time a messenger raps on the skull with the urgency of an accident, the cue of what ifs, the hired siren do not run. Stand, porter, admit no second power. Let there be an interval where no word applies. Let there be the hush that undoes merchandise and miracle-making alike. In that hush, the room remembers its lamp. The picture, never of God, has no sponsor left to pay its bill, and the heart, relieved of assistant God duties, rests where it has always been resting. I am with thee. When the eye is single, the street is gone, the siren is gone. The accident never had a tongue to speak. You have not repaired anything. You have awakened, and awakening, beloved, is the end of the dream's authority, because what has no cause cannot continue before the light. Now then, let us put all of this into the posture of our daily work. The picture will come, the siren will recruit, the old habit will offer you a wrench and a white coat. But if you are to be a practitioner of the presence, your stance must be single, unhurried, and ruthless in one direction only, refusing the picture a sponsor. I am not asking for harshness. I am requiring clarity. Meet nothingness as nothing. First, hear me in what will sound unkind, but is the shape of love. I have no interest whatsoever in what they're coming to me for. None. Not a particle. If you bring me a catalog, I will not buy. If you bring me a history, I will not archive. Let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay. For whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil. More words, more history, more angles, these thicken the fog. You are not rude to refuse them. You are faithful. The only way to keep a dream from improving itself into a nightmare is to stop furnishing it with details. Therefore, 3-minute calls, brief letters, a name if you like, a location if you must, a line that says, this suggestion is presenting. Full stop. If you cannot say it in a breath, you are already under contract with the hypnotism. People who love you will try to help by adding photographs and dates. They mean well. Smile inwardly and keep the door half closed. Stand porter at the door of thought. You are not a court stenographer taking down the testimony of the second creation. You are the witness to the first. As soon as the notice is received, do not think, do not compose, do not treat. Go at once into the closet, and when you have shut the door, be still. Relieve the mind of its itch to fix. It is not hired here. Take no thought for your life. Be still, and know that I am God. If words arise, let them be scriptural wind that blows through and out, not lumber to build a case. The Spirit of the Lord God is the only agency. Your one act is to become so still that agency may appear as itself. That is the return, immediate, simple, disciplined, hang up the telephone and hang up the mind. Now, I must say it because I have watched the cleverness with which earnest students avoid it. No words or thoughts directed at a person. Do not treat a body. Do not hammer your patient's mind with positive statements as if battering could bless. That is mental healing. It is mind over mind, which is to say noise over noise. It is the spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. If you make a target of a who, you have made a believer in two powers, and then you must counsel, persuade, revise, and repeat. I have no taste for it. Neither did the Master. He saw no man after the flesh. He answered to the eye behind the eyes and the ears. Before Abraham was, I am. There is the patient, the mesmerism itself, impersonal, universal, nothingness, pretending to something. That is what you meet, and you meet it as nothing. How? By laying the axe at the root and leaving it there. Not the symptom, not that organ, Not this latest headline masquerading as a diagnosis, but the root claim that there is an opponent, a cause outside of God, a law that requires your fear. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Stand so still that you cannot be hired by panic. Stand so still that your own good intentions fall asleep in your lap and the presence does what presence alone can do as itself. Sometimes there will be a hush that has weight, sometimes nothing at all. Do not measure, do not peak. When the sense of one is felt even faintly, you have met nothingness as nothing. Your part is done. The protocol is uncompromising in its tenderness. A call comes, a brief statement. Thank you. Hang up. Turn at once within. Forget the name, the face, the biography. You will be tempted to remember because love seems to require familiarity. No, love requires purity. When ye pray, use not vain repetitions. Names and dates can easily become repetitions. Let the claim be impersonal and therefore evictable. Rest in the awareness, not the thought, of God as one. If an old creed tries to help with an argument, smile at it as you would at a child offering to drive and return to silence. If a picture tries to reassemble in your mind, withdraw the light that would make it visible. Presence is the lamp. Your refusal to fund the shadow is your whole genius. Someone will say, but shouldn't we declare truth? He sent his word and healed them. Yes, and the word is not syllables. The word is presence realized. You may find a verse rises like a bird and settles on the branch of your heart, but do not pluck it to make a wreath for the patient. Let it sing by itself. If it stills you, it has done its work. The sick are healed whether you are aware of it or not. When the Spirit is upon you, I, if I be lifted up, will draw all men unto me. Lifted where? Out of the mind's machinery into the quiet where one is one. No hammering, no better phrases, no aim at a person. The lifting is enough. Do not write long letters back, and do not accept them. A line today, perhaps one tomorrow. All is well in God. Then nothing. Why? Because the moment you begin a correspondence with the picture, you become its publicist. Keep your office clean. If they insist on talking, let there be kindness without curiosity. Neither do I condemn thee. And then, as quickly, go and sin no more. Do not miss the mark by re-entering the dream with your pen in your hand. If you work this way for a little while, you will discover a freedom that feels almost like mischief. The mesmerism cannot get its hooks into you because there is nothing in you auditioning for the part of fixer. You listen just long enough to know there is a knock. You do not open the door to inventory the visitor's hat and coat. You turn to presence. You watch and you pray. You keep your words few and your meditation frequent. You return and you return again until the returning is your home. Pray without ceasing is not a posture. It is a stance, a residence in the one. And from that residence, beloved, you will find that what presented itself so loudly has lost voice, then interest, then place. What has no power has no voice. What has no cause cannot continue. And you, unburdened by cases and histories, will do your small part, meet nothingness as nothing, and rest where God is God. Now, if you have followed me so far into this ruthless simplicity, brief notice, immediate turning, no treatment, no person, you will ask the only honest question left. By what agency does anything happen? What moves? What does the work? And the answer that offends every industrious nerve in us is this: spiritual healing is done without words and without thoughts. The mind will dress that answer in mottos and stenography if you let it. Do not let it. Be still and wait until it takes place. That is all. Be still and wait, not the polite waiting that taps a toe and glances at a clock, but the surrender that signs no contracts with time. Not by might, nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. If you wish to know the mechanism, there it is. Spirit, not syllables, not affirmations, not technique. Spirit descending, appearing as itself, because nothing is in the way, inventing a second cause to argue with. Yes, I know the human habit wants something to do. It wants to decorate the sanctuary with successful phrases. It wants to perform propriety before God as if God were grading posture. Close the shop. Close it kindly. Hang the sign. No words today. No thoughts. No improving the silence. We are not practicing piety. We are consenting to presence. The arm of flesh cannot lift this. The arm of flesh is nothing in this room. Sit until the itch to improve yields. Sit until your sentences fall off the table and you do not bend to pick them up. Sit and do not time it. Minutes do not heal. Presence heals. Be still and know that I am God. And when you are still, there is no knower left, only knowing being itself, where your measuring used to be. Now then, how will you know when you have ceased offering yourself as the agency? The sign is small, and it does not belong to you. Sometimes there is the softest release, the shoulders remembering that they were never the beams holding a universe. Sometimes a breath comes you did not order, and it goes the way a tide turns without calling your name. Sometimes there is a very quiet certainty, no trumpet, no triumph, just the clear sense, I am is here. Do not grab that sentence for embroidery. Let it be nameless. I, if I be lifted up, will draw all men unto me. Lifted where? Out of the machinery of thought into the altitude of one. When that altitude is even dimly tasted, drawing is not your job. The Christ draws. Whether you are aware of it or not, the drawing occurs. You are not the magnet. You are the willingness to stop rubbing plastic on wool and calling it electricity. When nothing seems to happen, stay seated. That is the hardest act in the repertoire of non-acts. The mind, snubbed once, returns with catalogues of technique, with songs of the saints, with legal briefs for why you should be permitted just one, just a very small, very beautiful thought. Smile and let the petition expire in your lap. Do not reach for a method to help the methodless. Abide. In your patience possess ye your souls. Patience is not grim. It is spacious. It makes room for what acts to act. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. Hold it. Hold it when the stopwatch says you have been still long enough to earn a miracle. Hold it when the feeling is dry and the room plain. Hold it because holding peace is your only employment. If you cannot be hired by panic, you have fulfilled the job description of a practitioner. Outcomes are incidental. This is intolerable to the part of us that keeps score and writes newsletters. The Christ is the doer. Doers do not send receipts. Sometimes there is a letter, quick as the next mail, that says, gone, gone, it is gone, and you will laugh at the sweetness of it and forget it immediately, not from ingratitude, but from hygiene. Sometimes there is no letter, and the silence is the only sign, and you will keep your seat because your seat does not depend on applause. It is the Spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. The flesh wants prophet statements, Spirit wants room. Give it room. Give it all the room. But you ask, what if I cannot feel it? What if the release does not come? What if the breath is shy? What if certainty keeps its hat down over its eyes and will not meet me? Then you will be a disciple rather than an inspector. You will sit as if presence is present even when you cannot report a single sensation to prove it. We walk by faith, not by sight. Faith here is not belief in a distant deity. It is refusal to enthrone a second cause simply because your nerves are quiet today. Sit until you can sit, and if you cannot sit long, sit brief and true. Leave the room as you came in. with no bargain made and no fear hired. Return again in an hour or in a minute, not because repetition has power, but because availability has honesty. Pray without ceasing is not constant speaking, it is constant not speaking that stands ready for the descent. There is a sound the heart learns to recognize that has no decibels. Elijah named it the still small voice, but voice is too noisy a word for it. It is more like the absence of strain revealing its own authority. When it is there, you know you are not lighting candles to push back a dark. Light is. And because light is the picture that asks for conflict, thins as fog, thins under a sun that never hurried. That thinning may be visible in the ledger, in the body, in the letterbox, or it may be visible only as a life that is no longer frightened of its weather. Do not grade it. Do not grade God. The sign of the sign is your disinterest in signs. Now, I will tell you one small thing for your courage and then strip it of usefulness so you will not be tempted to use it. There are times when the release comes the moment I hang up the phone, no words, no thought, only a hush. And the next morning there is a note with 3 words, all is well. There are times when there is no hush, only obedience. And for days I hear nothing. Then a year later someone in a doorway says, by the way, and they do not finish their sentence because it does not matter anymore. Both are the same because both were never mine. The agency did not improve with the speed. The agency was spirit in both. So learn this and forget it. You are never the agent. You are only the absence of argument where the agent can be recognized. Keep your seat then. When the mind recruits you to perform, when it auditions you for the role of Holy Ghost, decline the part with courtesy. When minutes parade like officials, unsigned documents in their hands, thank them and sit without pen or stamp. When you feel nothing, remember that feeling is not the key. Availability is. Stand still, sit still, be still. Let the lift be the Christ's lifting. Let the drawing be the Christ's drawing. And when the breath comes, or when it does not, do the same thing. Nothing. Rest where God is God. In that rest, the hypnotism loosens, not because you have squeezed it with faith or polished it with thought, but because what has no cause has no life before presence. Only God acts. It is enough. Now then, if the agency is spirit and not our thinking, we must ask, who are you that consents to this agency? Who is sitting in the chair when there is no performance to give? I am back here, not in the pulse, not in the stomach's weather, not in the region where a diagnosis wants to pitch its tent. Back here, the witness prior to sensation, the awareness that knows the breath without being subject to its report. Before Abraham was, I am. If that sentence has any use, it is here. I was before I was conceived. The biography came later and told stories about 1,000 Sundays and 1 accident and a family line with 4 uncles and 2 brilliant aunts, but the I behind the eyes preceded the registry. That is where the practitioner lives. That is where you must live if you would be free of the carnival. You're not well because your heart is well. Your heart is well because you exist. Let that stone be laid once and for all. The monitor on the wall does not authorize life. Life authorizes the monitor to flicker for a while. It is the spirit that quickeneth. The flesh profiteth nothing. If you go to the flesh for cause, you must spend your days propping, bolstering, balancing, and repairing, and even then you can never sleep because the flesh asks for hourly reports. But if cause is returned to cause, if being is seen as God's own I am being itself as you, then the body yields to governance without argument. Effects find their place when cause is single. When thine eye is single, thy whole body shall be full of light. Single, not an eye on God and an eye on the pulse. Consider Melchizedek, who without father, without mother, without descent, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, appears as a priest of the Most High God. Do not turn that into a puzzle for genealogists. Accept it as a template for identity. Without father, without mother, not denying human lineage, but refusing to let material process author I, the biography pleads for exceptions. My history, my chemistry, my fate. This runs in our family. This started when the doctor said, and the moment you accept that plea, you have enthroned a second cause and set yourself to war. Die daily to that plea. Paul was not being poetic when he said, I die daily. Die to yesterday's proud health and to yesterday's frightened report. Die to the argument that your being is a sequence of events. Be reborn of the Spirit now. No spasm, no trumpet, just a quiet refusal to locate I in the registry office of time. Some years ago, a young man wrote a very courteous letter filled with numbers and surnames and a paragraph on the inevitability of an inherited condition, inevitable because charts and cousins and such. I wrote him one line, thank you. Rest and let us be still. Then I went into the closet and shut the door. I did not visualize chromosomes repenting. I did not persuade heredity to be kind. I sat until there was nothing left of me that needed to be clever. And in that simple vacancy, the I behind the case felt present. No words, no success, only I am. 2 weeks, and another line arrived. Something has changed. No drama, no triumph. Just the collapse of a prediction because the sponsor was missing. Realization, not treatment. Identity, not argument. When the center is righted, the circumference draws itself modestly. Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee, says the Lord, and in him we live and move and have our being. If you start where you began in God, as the I that is before heartbeat, then the drum in the chest becomes a servant rather than a monarch. You will still eat breakfast, you will still go to your work, but you will not consult the weather of your nerves to learn if you exist. The body will do what bodies do, sometimes light, sometimes heavy, sometimes early, sometimes late. Do not be impressed. Presence is the fact. Stand there. Stand porter at the door of thought and refuse admission to any report that asks you to name yourself by chemistry. The arm of flesh is a term denoting nothingness. Do not make it a surname. This is where the second creation loses its witness. The first chapter of Genesis reveals man in the image and likeness of God, finished, pronounced good. The second tells a dream of dust, a nap under hypnosis, a garden that can be lost, a serpent giving lectures on diet. Your biography belongs to that second chapter and its miserable curriculum. The axe belongs to the root of it. No dust authored you, no rib defines you, no garden expelled you. Lay the axe there. Refuse to attribute causality to what God did not make. Ye must be born again out of the dust explanation into the I am that never began and therefore cannot end. Now, how do you practice this when the ribs drum loudly and the news prints numbers in red? Do not argue. Do not bargain. Begin with the simplest truth available. I am. Not I am well, not I am sick, not I am brave. Those are adjectives, and adjectives borrow from the dream. I am. Let that be your seed. From there you may notice that breath is occurring, that a rhythm beats, that a sensation suggests itself. You may even hear the old attorney begin his speech, statistics, relatives, genealogies. Smile. Neither do I condemn thee. And die again, die to the need to answer, die to the temptation to fortify I with better arguments. The I that I am was before this conversation and will be after it. Rest there. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on thee. Stay, not on pulse, on thee. When identity is righted, effects conform naturally. Do not watch for them. You will only slow the clock. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. First does not mean first in a list of many. First means only. Seek only. Let the adding be the Christ's business. Then you will prove in small, unpublic ways that spirit governs body and not the reverse. A fear loosens. A habit finds no hand to hold. A report loses its audience. You are not well because your heart tests well. Your heart tests well because you exist in and as the life that is God. Stand there, beloved. Stand where you began, where you now are, and where you cannot cease to be. I am before heartbeat. In that recognition, the dream cannot recruit you, and healing is not a prize, but the byproduct of being awake to your name. If we are to live as I am before heartbeat, we must not do so as a clever novelty of the mind. We must find our feet set upon the ground. The prophets and apostles already trod. The canon is not a museum of miracles. It is a record of one acting as one, without an opponent, laying the axe at the root rather than pruning the branches. John the Baptist says, the axe is laid unto the root of the trees, not the leaves, not the fruit, the root. Presence first, appearances last. That is the pattern. Now watch it work in the gospel as if you had never read it, and see if it does not witness to this very thing we are practicing without words and without thoughts. A leper comes, and the contagion of the age comes with him. If there were ever a time for gloves, for distance, for a lecture on sanitation, it would be there. But the Master does not hire fear. He does not line up a divine power against a germ power. He put forth his hand and touched him, saying, I will be thou clean. And immediately his leprosy was cleansed. Notice there is no ceremony to appease a rival force, no bargaining. The meeting is not between Jesus and disease, it is between presence and nothingness. He touches what the world calls untouchable, not to prove daring, but because in the light of realized presence the picture has no cause and therefore no voice. That is your model. Do not take counsel with contagion. Meet the hypnotism impersonally as nothing. Touch in the heart, if not the hand, with the eye that knows no rival. And then there is that dear, baffling scene, spittle and clay on the eyes of a man born blind, and said unto him, Go, wash in the pool of Siloam. He went his way, therefore, and washed and came seeing. If we love methods, we would bottle the spittle and sell shares in the pool. But a chapter earlier or later, the Master heals with a word at a distance or with a touch. Sometimes he forbids talk. Sometimes he sends them to the priest. Sometimes he says nothing at all. The inconsistency of methods is the consistency of principle. There is no virtue in means. There is only the Christ felt, the eye of God present, the descent of spirit that makes mockery of techniques. I can of mine own self do nothing, he says. That is the axe. If means were power, he would standardize them. He does not. Presence heals, not method. And when judgment crowds the doorway with its papers in hand, who sinned, this man or his parents? The Christ shuts the file drawer with one sentence. Neither hath this man sinned, nor his parents, but that the works of God should be made manifest in him. Neither, do you hear the climate of non-judgment? Neither do I condemn thee, he tells the woman in the dust, and in that air mesmerism cannot root. Judgment is fertilizer for the second creation. It fattens the story of cause in matter and crime in persons. Non-judgment lays the axe at the suggestion that anyone authored error or that error authored itself. Do not be found prosecuting where the Christ is refusing to indict. Neither do I condemn thee and then go and sin no more. Which is to say, do not miss the mark again by entering the courtroom of two powers. At the beautiful gate, a man lame from birth begs for coins. Peter does not fumble for a purse. He does not offer a technique. He does not argue ligaments into compliance. He says the purest sentence a practitioner can say, silver and gold have I none, but such as I have give I thee. Such as I have. What does he have? Not money, not a method. He has conscious presence. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, rise up and walk. And immediately his feet and ankle bones receive strength. Do not romanticize the words. The name is not a spell. It is the nature of God realized. Peter gives what cannot be counted but can be felt. I am here. He is not treating a body. He is not bullying a mind. He is not competing with an opposite. He is refusing an opponent and extending what is already present when fear is absent. That is, such as I have. Paul, with the tidy severity of an apostle, names the whole imposture, the carnal mind, enmity against God. A mind opposed to God is not a second mind. It is a term denoting nothingness. To be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace. There you have the geometry of our work. If you enthrone the second creation, Genesis 2, with its dust, its sleep, its ribbon regret, you will make a religion of branches. But if you rest in Genesis 1, God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. You will meet every suggestion as rootless, and the axe will already be laid. Do not prune Adam's dream. Wake, refuse to tutor the serpent. Decline its continuing education hours. Awake, thou that sleepest, and arise from the dead, and Christ shall give thee light. So you see, Scripture does not offer us multiple patterns, and we choose our favorite. The pattern is one: presence first, appearances last. Presence touches the untouchable because there is nothing there to fear. Presence makes nonsense of methods by refusing to enthrone them. Presence creates the climate where neither ends condemnation and mesmerism, loses seed and soil. Presence stands at the gate with empty pockets and full hands, giving what cannot be counted and cannot be withheld. Presence exposes the second creation as a dream and rests in the first as fact, very good and very now. Take that as authority, not as argument. Let the axe be laid where the cannon lays it, at the root. Refuse to make a science of pruning, and do not keep pets among the branches. Meet every verse the way you meet every claim, silently, simply, with the eye that was before Abraham. And in that quiet, watch the leaves rearrange themselves without your help, because the root has been met, and what has no cause has no continuance before presence. You will forgive me if I am reluctant to tell stories. People will take a story and make a shrine of the leaves, and in a week they are bottling spittle and listing pools on the exchange. But sometimes a window helps the heart breathe, only a window, not a blueprint. So let me open 3 small panes, and then we shall close them before the sun becomes a superstition. First, the brief call. Nobody can be on my telephone over 3 minutes. I have no interest whatsoever in them or what they're coming to me for. That is not rudeness, that is hygiene. A voice will say, please help, and I reply, thank you, I have it. Bye, because we do not feed the dream details. Then I return to the chair, I do nothing. I do not affirm, I do not deny, I do not recruit angels with adjectives. I sit until the sense of I am is the only occupant left in the room. Sometimes it is a soft hush. Sometimes it is only obedience without weather. The next morning there is a line. All is quiet. No fanfare. No trophies. Just quiet. That is all I can tell you, because that is all I know. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. I hold it. The Lord does the rest. Second, the teeth that would not move. Years ago, my attention was invited to a case of tuberculosis. Harsh, insistent, all the convincing letters of diagnosis. I went into the closet and shut the door. I did not argue with a lung. I did not console a germ. I went where we always go, be still and know. If there was any thought at all, it was only this: The arm of flesh is nothingness. Presence is all. The next morning there was a note, not from the patient, but from a relative laughing through ink. You won't believe this, but the dentist says the teeth won't move, no pyorrhea, no looseness. He can't budge them. I had not had teeth in mind. I did not even know the mouth was part of the story. The circumference rearranged itself because the center was recognized. Later, the original thing that began the letter turned into nothing to talk about, as nothings do when no one hires them. Realization, not treatment. One cause recognized, many effects minding their manners. Third, a child and a night siren that did not hire fear. The mother called late. 3 sentences was all. Name, city, please help. That is all I will ever know. I said, thank you, goodbye, and I went to the chair. On the street outside, a siren rehearsed its drama, and I did not give it an audience. I laid the axe where it belongs. No second power, no second cause. A breath came unannounced. That was all. Before dawn, another line. The fever broke, the doctor smiled, and everyone slept. Which means nothing except that where Christ is recognized as presence, the picture has no tribunal left to argue in. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. Not wait upon symptoms, upon the Lord. Why recount these? Not to promise outcomes, not to build you a checklist and a stopwatch and a little brass plaque that says certified practitioner of teeth. These are not parables of method. They are windows of mercy. The wind bloweth where it listeth, and thou hearest the sound thereof, but canst not tell whence it cometh. Guard that sentence like your life, because you will be tempted, you will to memorize the itinerary of another's grace. Do not, never make a formula of the Spirit's freedom. If ever you hear me speak as if speed or sequence or posture produce the hush, close your notebook and pray for me. We have one mechanism, and it is not mechanical, not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. Let me say again, the thing that makes me useless as a technician and useful as a doorstop for truth, I am not treating bodies. I am not treating minds. I am not trying to persuade matter to change its mood. I am refusing 2 powers. I am meeting the claim at its root as nothing. That is all. When that refusal is clean, when you will not concede a rival even the dignity of being an opponent, the picture loses its breath, not because you argued it into a corner, but because what has no cause has no continuance before presence. If thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. Singleness ends the debate. Light does not wrestle dark. It appears, and dark has no narrative left. You will notice the economy of these windows. No histories, no catalogs, no recreations of symptoms suitable for symposiums. That is intentional. The more you embroider the dream, the warmer its blanket. Keep your witness spare. If you write me letters, let them be brief. A name and please help. Later, a line that says all is well. If you call, keep your call short. Then both of us can get back to the only room where anything happens, stillness. Protocol is not severity. It is love protecting you from the gossip of appearances. And if you ask, but sometimes it doesn't look that way, sometimes the letter does not come, sometimes the picture shouts longer, then you have the holiest work of all, to stay seated without bribery, to let God be God without requiring a postcard. Evidence will come or it will not. Presence is. Do not grade God. Do not hire despair. Stand porter at the door of thought and throw no banquet for reports that enthrone a second creation. Return to Genesis 1 and hold your peace. The windows we have glanced through are not proof, they are courtesy. The proof stands whether or not a dentist is astonished. So we leave these little pains where we found them, transparent, ordinary, undramatic. They tell us nothing new. They only say what the canon says and what your heart has always known in its quietest minute realization, not treatment, undoes the picture. When the practitioner refused two powers and rested in God, mesmerism loosened its grip because it had no hand to grip with. This is the Lord's doing. It is marvelous in our eyes. Now let us be very simple and very poor in method and very rich in God, that the same Lord may do as he will, and the wind may blow where it listeth, and we may not even know whence it cometh, because we are too still to write its biography. Let us be very simple now. No arguments, no techniques to polish. 7 minutes is a courtesy to the mind that likes a number, but the clock can pray for itself. Close your eyes. Withdraw your glance from the world that has had so much of your attention, and without heroics release the case, the clock, and any idea of a result. Enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret. Shut the door. It is not a door of wood. It is a consent to be without an audience. Let the name, the letter, the diagnosis, the relative, the juries of memory, all of it, be placed outside the door. We are not being unkind. We are refusing to embroider the dream. Before we are still, let us purify the air. If there is any brother or sister your thought has been prosecuting, even for noble reasons, stop your trial now. If thou bring thy gift to the altar, and there rememberest that thy brother hath aught against thee, first be reconciled. Do that here, not by composing a brilliant apology, but by releasing the need to be right, to be safe at someone else's expense. Whisper within yourself, if you must, I bless you, I free you, I hold no court against you. Neither do I condemn thee. Let condemnation drain out of the room, including self-condemnation. You are not entering stillness as a defendant. You are consenting to be what you already are in God. As grievance loosens, two-power thinking loosens with it, because judgment is always the twin of fear. Let the twins go to their rest. Now, silence. No affirmations, no denials, no pious little sentences that try to earn God's notice. Put them away as you would put away a pen before approaching a spring. The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. Be the silence. Not an empty hush that waits greedily, but the Sabbath stillness that existed before your need had a name. Let the breathing occur as it will without your management. There is nothing to count. The tongue can rest, the forehead need not think. Spiritual healing is done without words and without thoughts. Sit here as if the entire practice depended upon God and not upon your excellent performance, because that is the truth of it. In this quiet, a recognition is present not as a sentence, but as a fact like light in a room. Only God is power. Say nothing to it. Do not glue adjectives to it. Only God is power. And the so-called arm of flesh, the carnal mind, the universal hypnotism, the second creation is nothingness. It has no cause, no law, no voice. Be still and know that I am God. The knowing here is not the mind's recital, it is the heart's rest. If a thought begins to construct a platform, divine versus mortal, good force versus bad force, let it fail mid-sentence. We are not pitting powers. We are refusing an opponent. We are laying the axe to the root by not supplying it with our breath. Wait now, but do not strain. If there is a softness that arrives, a quiet rounding of the inner air, a breath that seems to be breathed for you, do not celebrate it. If there is dryness, a room with no weather at all, do not fix it. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength, not in fireworks. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. Your part is to hold it. Hold it without white knuckles. Hold it as you would hold a sleeping child without instruction. without commentary. A symptom thought may knock. A picture may come with its credentials, history, measurements, the stern brow of experience. You are not obliged to greet it at the door. Stand porter at the door of thought. Say nothing to it. Do not plead with it. Do not hate it. Do not hire it. If you must say anything at all, say it inside the silence. There is no opponent here. Then turn your face again to the stillness. If the knock grows louder, lay the axe to the root. This has no cause in God, therefore it has no law to enforce, no continuity to claim, no audience to instruct. The axe is not noise, it is refusal. A train is passing. Let it pass. Do not climb aboard to argue with the conductor. Keep your eyes single. If an old prayer you love rises of its own accord, peace, be still. Let it pass across the surface like a swan and disappear without ripples. Do not pet it. Do not repeat it as if it were a charm. If the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth warms the room, honor it by being more silent, not by building a shrine of syllables. I, if I be lifted up, will draw all men unto me. The lifting up is not your mind rising on tiptoe. It is the ceasing of self-occupation so that presence may be felt as presence. Let the drawing take care of itself. You feel no need to supervise gravity. Do not supervise grace. Now then, there may be a minute where something unclenches that you did not know was clenched. A breath goes out and does not hurry back, or a weight on the chest forgets its assignment, or nothing at all registers except a meek quiet. Leave it be. Now we'll keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee. Stay, not on the body's report, on thee. And if the mind demands a status update, well, how are we doing? Smile gently at the clerk and decline to fill in the form. We do not examine the branches while the axe meets the root. We do not check the pulse of a dream. If a memory of someone's need flutters at the edge, do not drag them in for treatment. Bless them by not turning them into patients. The only patient is mesmerism, and even that is not a person. It is a term denoting nothingness. You do your most for your brother when you refuse to make a case of him and rest in presence as all in all. Not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Let that be the only agency in the room. The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me is not a sentence to be repeated. It is an atmosphere to which you consent. Remain a moment longer in the holy commonplace. Nothing is required of you. You are not earning, you are not convincing, you are not selecting verses to outwit the serpent in Genesis 2. You are simply not asleep to Genesis 1. Very good, finish. Presence is, if your attention wanders, call it back not with a leash, but with a smile. Here, here, stay on thee. Every return is a little death to self-importance. Paul called it dying daily. It is not morbid. It is merciful. Now, we will leave this room as we entered without a flourish. Do not open your eyes to examine the body. Do not stand up to see what has changed. Gratitude, if it arises, let it have no object. Not thank you for this or that, simply thank you. Thank you is the name of air when you are not holding it. That is enough. Wait on the Lord. Be of good courage, and he shall strengthen thine heart. He shall. You need not check. When you do open your eyes, do nothing special with the world. The chair is a chair again. The room is the room. Let the hush walk ahead of you out the door. If a case tries to jump back into your hands on the way to the sink, do not wrestle it. Do not throw it a bone. Do not rehearse how still you were. Just be still again for a breath, the smallest Sabbath, and let it slide off without a scene. The axe has done, is doing, will do its quiet work where you cannot see it. Light does not announce its victories. It simply appears, and there is nothing left for darkness to say. That is the whole method, because there is no method. Sit down, be still, and let presence be presence. Stand porter at the door and admit no opponent. Refuse two powers. Meet nothingness as nothing. When you leave the chair, leave the chair. Do not carry it on your back as a sacred furniture. Presence walks. It does not remain behind, hoping you will visit. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. Let this 7 minutes be a beginning, not a time out. But for now, beloved, no more words. Be still and know. After the hush, the habits, after the chair, the door, the work now is not dramatic, it is faithful. What I say unto you, I say unto all. Watch. Watch in the morning when the first report of the world rustles at the edge of your pillow. Watch at noon when the market shouts and the body files its briefs. Watch at night when memory wants to hold a vigil for yesterday. Stand porter at the door of thought. Refuse admission to any tale that earns its seat by proposing a second power if it smells of fear, of blame, of cause, in matter, of law, in opposites. No admittance, not by argument, by silence, by that same inner nod you learned in the chair. The axe at the root is not a battle axe. It is a simple refusal, daily, gentle, uncompromising. Keep your ways simple. Let your communications be brief. Yea, yea, nay, nay. If you write a name and please help. If you report a quiet all is well. Then back to stillness. Do not rehearse the dream to make it feel important. The dream does not require a publicist. Set a watch, O Lord, before my mouth. Keep the door of my lips. Keep the door of your pen, of your phone, of your eager explicator within. The quicker you return to silence, the less furniture mesmerism has to arrange. 3 minutes on the telephone is enough for charity. 3 hours in the closet may be required for honesty. Do not reverse those. Identity hygiene is your hourly bath. When a report arises, good, bad, or flattering, touch it with one question. Who am I before this heartbeat? Before Abraham was, I am. That is not a sentence to admire. That is the spine of your day. If you forget it, the body will begin to impersonate cause again, and you will be tempted to treat leaves. Stop. I am precedes pulse. Therefore, pulse is effect. You are not well because your heart is well. Your heart is well because you are returned here a dozen times before lunch if you must. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Out of I am, not out of the organ that echoes it. Move through your community as mercy, not as management. Neither condemn nor preach. You need not fix anyone's dream. You need not certify anyone's trance. The Master said, neither do I condemn thee. Let that air follow you into your errand. If the opportunity to advise arrives escorting its twin superiority, decline the invitation. Be poor in method and rich in presence. You will find that in the atmosphere of non-opposition, arguments deflate without your cleverness. Let your light so shine, not your megaphone so shout, that others may see something they cannot name and glorify not you but your Father which is in heaven. That is evangelism enough. When you pray, leave it in God. Do not conduct the postmortem on prayer. Commit thy way unto the Lord. Trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass. Do not pry the door open afterward to see how he's doing. If a result appears, be grateful without inventory. If nothing appears, be faithful without complaint. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof, and sufficient unto the day is the grace thereof. Bread is given daily, not stored as a boast. His mercies are new every morning. Meet them as new, not as a rerun of yesterday's wonders. If the day has thorns, and some days are all thorn, do not graduate from porter to pugilist. Go back to the chair for one breath in a broom closet if you must. Silence is portable. A bent head at a red light is a sanctuary. if your heart knows what to do there? Nothing. Pray without ceasing does not mean talk without pauses. It means live from the eye that prays when you are quiet. The axe is laid again and again, not with fury, but with steadiness. Refuse an opponent. Refuse to be an opponent. Now then, we finish as we began. In God. No flourish, no inspection, no schedule of results. Tomorrow we begin again. Watch, refuse, be still, and know. If you forget by 8 o'clock, begin again at 8:01. Grace is not tired of you. The Spirit of the Lord God is upon you, whether or not you feel poetic. Let that be enough. Stand porter, lay the axe at the root, keep to silence. And the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds, not because you managed it, but because one is power and beside him there is none.